Solitaire. I think you could, and I would take all the colors and minutes, but I'd like to borrow you out of there, we could drop it in chairs, and then I work at the meeting on Tuesday.
She teaches kindergarten in public school.
Weight on my shoulders.
She goes to our church.
I love that.
This is Amy, and I know this is Jennifer. Yesterday, she'd be exhausted after a day. It's going to be Tuesday. And they have on and off students.
I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York.
Hey, I'm from the state of New York too, but I'm not bragging about it. I will brag about the county I lived in. Yeah, Reading County. That was a real good place to live.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Thanks for coming out. Without you guys, we can't do this, so it's important, and we appreciate you every time you come. We're going to get started here now. If anybody want to remind you, there's no questions during the meeting. If you guys would like to speak after the meeting, the sign-up sheet is over here on this table. We've got a 3-minute time limit where you guys can talk or ask questions or do whatever you want to do. So we're going to get going. I wanted to thank Tim and the maintenance staff, by the way, for putting a nice concrete picnic table out here by the playground. We've had several people ask about that. That's nice. We'll get started with attendance. Jackie?
Gary Corn.
Here.
Jackie Collier. Here. Jan Flynn.
Present.
Sal De Benedetto.
Here.
Nancy LaChance. Here. We are all present and accounted for. Approval of the minutes from the quarterly meeting, April 27th, 2024. Has everyone had a chance to read those?
We have.
All the, Sal's name has been corrected everywhere, I do believe. I don't know why, I have a brain fart with that. Will someone make a motion to approve the minutes from April 27th, 2024?
So moved.
Seconded.
Any discussion? All in favor of approving?
Aye.
Thank you. Now it's time to approve the minutes from our special meeting in June. That was where we announced candidates for the upcoming election. Will someone, have y'all looked at that?
Yes.
Will someone please move to approve?
I move to approve.
Second.
Any discussion? No discussion?
Yes, seconded.
Did I get a second?
Here.
Yeah. You seconded.
Yes.
Right. And no discussion. All in favor of approving June 15th special meeting?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous.
Yep. All right. Passing it on to Gary.
Under old business, just wanted to let folks know in the chapel, we are still going to use the chapel as a multi-event facility. It's moving a little slow, largely because of me. We've got the lumber down there to get started rebuilding the decks, and we've gotten prices on painting the building. So just want to let everybody know it's not forgotten. We've just had some other things on our plate, but the chapel does move ahead. Next order of old business, I believe Dan has something for us.
No, there's no update on that item with a new rule.
Remind everyone
What's
what
the
the
new
rule
rule?
was.
The rule had to do with, we announced at the April meeting that we had some problems with members going to the office and going and approaching various employees and getting way out of line with them, getting very, very aggressive and very nasty on various issues. Wasn't a lot, and it was certainly no one in this room, but we talked about creating a rule that basically said, you know, that when we have rules about the way our employees have to treat the members and anyone that they come in contact with, that basically saying we expect the same kind of behavior from all of the members towards employees, and if it doesn't happen, we will basically resolve, and we haven't finished the discussion on it, but if it gets too out of hand when that happens, we're instructing the employees to call the police if it amounts to disorderly conduct or something like that. But we have not created the new rule yet.
We have equipped all the employees with baseball bats, so we want to keep that in mind.
Stop that.
Sal, I believe you've got something about the 2024 election.
I think he's got a mic closer, but see if that one works. That's fine, see if that one works.
See if it works.
No, it's just not as loud.
We need to test it anyway. Is this working?
Yeah.
Okay. 2024 election. If you were around last week, you could have attended the Meet the Candidates thing. Something you may have noticed is that Chris Kraft, who was a candidate, is no longer a candidate. He had a lot of conflicts. He's the HOA, on the HOA where he lives in Florida. He's on a professional association. He's just hurting the camel at both ends and decided it would be best for him not to run this time. But he will likely, when things change for him, if he moves up here full-time especially, he'll seek to be on the board again, perhaps. So that was the big change about the election. The proxy votes have been slated. They're ready to go out.
They're not ready.
No, no.
They'll go out, we will mail them probably next Saturday.
Okay, so they're coming out soon.
That's on the agenda for later.
And we'll talk about, yeah, annual meeting later in the broadcast.
Any other old business? Okay, let's move on to new business. Nancy LaChance, I believe Nancy has something about possible change in impact fees.
All right, so we did have a request to look at impact fees to see that we had an adequate amount slated to cover the damage being done by the construction equipment using our streets to move big trucks with, well, you've seen them, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, so we are investigating that. There is no resolution at this time. We're looking at doing a competitive analysis of what's being asked for by counties, what kinds of things are other community associations doing, and we will be continuing to work towards a resolution that will come up in the not too distant future.
We did.
We are also, so do you want me to pass this over to you, Dan?
Sure.
Dan was slated to talk about the water system.
Yeah, Dan, yeah, Dan.
Okay, based on, it's no secret up here in the last, over the last year, we've had a lot of issues with our water system, and we've had a lot of questions from members about different issues involving our water system. So the board and property manager have, we've embarked on developing a strategic plan to address everything with our water system. And it's quite an involved process, but thus far, the board and property manager have met on 2 occasions, and we've started putting together a plan, a strategic, comprehensive plan that will really address 3 areas. And the first is we're looking right now, and have begun doing this already, and this will ultimately be in an overall plan, but first issue is water consumption, comparing how much water we are paying for from the city of Calhoun, and then our distribution of it, and issues surrounding water consumption, so that'll be the first area. Looking at meters and metering and different things in that area. The second area is, we're gonna look at is, and haven't quite started this yet, but system storage capacity, given the amount of growth that we have in the, throughout the resort and the needs that we have for firefighting, if we need to, we need to make sure that we have adequate capacity in the system to do what we need to do. So we'll be looking at everything under that heading, and then really in the same area, you know, we're gonna be looking at the plan that we have annually. We have to budget money for repairs and maintenance of the system itself, so fixing breaks and monitoring all that. So that second component of the plan will look at you know, both the storage capacity and annual maintenance by a plan, how much we budget for it, are we appropriately doing everything we need to be doing. And then the third is looking at infrastructure upgrades of the entire system. You know, do we need to, you know, replace lines or pumps or, you know, any of the things that, you know, I think a lot of us are aware of individual parts of the system that's gotten older and more costly in some ways. So the third part of it, we're gonna take a big look at the overall infrastructure of the water system. We're gonna look, there was actually a pretty good study done of it, 2017. We've revisited that, and looks encouraging. A lot of things that were recommended in that one have been completed as they were supposed to. And we'll probably wind up updating that and then come up with a plan for what do we need to do to upgrade the infrastructure long term. And you know, then the ugly question of how do we fund it, because all these things cost money. So then we have to look at, you know, what's a sensible and fair way to fund it. So that's basically what we're working on. We've already embarked on this plan, and it's actually coming along very well. Okay.
All right, this is one that I feel very passionate about. The resolution to change the fees for the RV and boat storage. As you know, at one time it was around, it was $300 or I believe that's what it was.
$250.
Oh, $250, and it jumped to $500 without notice. So, I've been fighting it or discussing it and how I feel about this. And we have created a resolution. I don't know if that was handed out, the resolution. Okay. Where'd I put it? There. Relating to the decrease in rental of the TRCRA RV and boat storage. Whereas Article 3C17 of the bylaws of Talking Rock Creek Resort assigns the Board of Directors shall be responsible for the affairs of the association. I don't have to go on through the rest of that. Do I?
No.
Okay.
Speak down to the-
Whereas the board has determined that it is in the best interests of the association and the association's members to decrease the rental rate of the TRCRA RV boat storage to $360 per year, which will encourage members to use the facility. The next part is that we have, the board members have the, not the right, what's the word? The power?
Authority.
The authority to set fees at reasonable user fees. And now therefore be it resolved that the TRCRA Board of Directors has established a rental of $360 per year, which is $30 a month, to members of TRCRA beginning January 1st, 2025. These fees This fee will be adjusted from time to time as the board shall determine to be appropriate. Will someone make a motion to approve this resolution?
So moved.
It was $30.
I second.
Any discussion? No discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, we don't need to do a roll call vote. That was unanimous, 5-0. Starting January 1st, 2025, the fees for the storage and RV lot will be $360 per year. Thank you.
I just wanted to add one thing to what Dan was saying about the water system. You'll notice, you may notice little white flags that have been put at the meters. We're in the process of locating all the meters. So most of you know our maintenance staff, but if you see a couple of guys milling around your yard, around your water meter, that's what we're doing. We're locating them, cleaning them off, and getting ready to institute the process. Next up will be Nancy's treasurer's report.
All right, as y'all know, well, some of you know, anyway, I was gone for a month and a half, so when I came back, so I'm gonna say, let me just put it this way. So let me tell you the good news. So there are some really good pieces of news about the financials. Number one, if you look at the income we have taken in the first, this runs through June 26th. We have brought in $1,181,738.70 into our accounts. So we have brought in that much money, which is about 104.33% more, above, like 4% above what we actually budgeted that we would receive this year, because we adjust for doubtful accounts. So we know that some of the people that we bill are not gonna pay us because they haven't paid us for 5 years, so they're probably not gonna start this year. However, you can see that that number tells us that we have taken in, we've done a pretty good job getting collections in and moving forward. So we are in a good position in terms of money coming in. I'll do good news, bad news. So the bad news about it is that at some point in time, Intuit did an upgrade of their system, which made all of the work that we've done to kind of map the money that comes into the exact category of income it is. So we allocate, like, some of it's HOA dues, some of it's water dues, some of it's past due collections, some of it's impact fees. We have a lot of that information, but a lot of it has gotten muddied. Therefore, I cannot give you at this point in time the total income, the exact breakdown of where that money's coming from. What's the percentage collections? What's the percentage HOA, etc. So I cannot tell you that. I will tell you, though, that we are excruciatingly going through every single transaction that we had so far this year and looking at it and mapping it to the account that it truly belongs to, so that we can fix the problem in the system that exists. Part of this is on Intuit's side. Part of it is that we have a new bookkeeper. The previous bookkeeper was coached to put information in a certain way, but that actually has caused us not to have exactly the information that we want. So there's nothing inaccurate, it's just that it's not mapped correctly. So we are working through that process, and we expect to be done with that before the end of this month. So that's kind of good news, bad news. Intuit problems have been bad. So that's in terms of our income. In terms of our expenses, right now we should be, as of yesterday, we should be at 56% of our budget in every category. You can look at each line item. So we've gotten all of our expenses worked through, and you can look at at every line item and where there are major issues between our budget and what we actually spent. So if you look at the expense side of things, for example, total bank charges. we budgeted 2,762.04, and we're actually pretty close to that. It's a little higher, but that is an offset against interest. So we've actually made $11,898 in interest from the bank at the same time as we've been charged interest for the accounts that we use. We've reduced the number of accounts, which actually is in our favor, and we are optimistic that we'll keep that balance going so that we don't pay interest. We're actually either breaking even or actually gaining some money from the interest that we're getting. When you look, you kind of have to look through all of these numbers, and some of the things that that need to be, like, we need to look at those numbers and look at those percentages and where we're at this point in time, and some of them are budgeting issues. So for example, equipment expenses are right now higher than they should be. However, we do know that that's partly because we have some equipment that is aging and it's going to be needing more repairs. So we're hoping, we are working very, very hard on indicating inside of our books very, very clearly what each item is, so that we can budget more smarter for next fiscal year, and we can get closer to the mark. That being said, so we've got that. Some things are a function of aging equipment, so things are more expensive than they used to, and that's the other piece in there. Some things are more expensive because things are more expensive these days. So we've had a definite increase in the cost of some things, like auto expenses, like labor in various areas, etc. So we've got increase in expenses. We've also acquired an additional auto, and therefore our insurance on autos is higher than we had anticipated, because now we have another vehicle to insure. In some cases, we just need to be very, very thoughtful about reviewing. So with the subscriptions line item is much higher than we would have anticipated, at the beginning of the year, but we are breaking it out so we know every subscription we have, why we're maintaining it, so we can remove those that are not necessary and budget appropriately for those that are. Let's see. Healthcare reimbursement was included in the overall cost of employees. So if you look at the total payroll line, we're just a tad over the anticipation. So we're at 60.56% of what was budgeted for the year in our employee costs overall. That is partially due to some very, very big overtime costs. So we've had to have the guys in to fix water problems over weekends and other kinds of problems. You know, when something goes really wrong, you want those guys to come in, and they're going to get paid overtime. So part of that is because of overtime, and part of it, and that, I mean, I think that's the primary reason why we're somewhat over. Another thing to note is that collection fees. So there's a line item for collection fees, and you can see that there is no actual budget given for the legal fees of collection. And we've turned a lot of accounts over to collections. The idea was that we would have all of our collections, so money gained going into that account against money paid to the lawyers, because it costs money for the lawyers to sneeze. You ask, anything that they do will cost you money. So what we're working very, very hard on as we're going through this transaction analysis is to balance what we've paid out in legal fees for collections versus what we're bringing in with collections. And it's like I'm on the D's. So in the whole, there's 7,678 transactions that have to be reviewed, and I am in the D area, and I'm seeing a lot of this is collections money. So we'll be seeing hopefully within the next couple of weeks, and I will put out a note to everybody what we're seeing from, you know, as in terms of the money we've paid for collections versus the money we've brought in against collections. Let's see, other items. So property taxes, the line item for property taxes were not budgeted last year because we made all these acquisitions of properties after the beginning of the year. So we are going to be having some property taxes that have to get paid, and we will have to continue paying them, and that was not budgeted, but will be budgeted going forward. Let's see. We can see that waste costs are much higher than we anticipated, so we're way over at like 77.67% on the year, when we should only be at 56, but we know we had some breakages. So anything you can do to I don't know, to harass people who are putting bad stuff into these dumpsters, that we need to stop that because it's costing us. There is, we did this from two perspectives because we could see that our income numbers were a little bit off, were quite off, and that they didn't match what we knew we had actually deposited in the bank. So we looked at the bank, all bank transactions, and adjusted every entry so that it would match exactly what we know happened at the bank. So there is a discrepancy in terms of expenses of, and it sounds large, but actually when we go through things, I don't think we're gonna see this big discrepancy, but the truth is that it's $52,378 more that the bank says we've spent than is showing up in QuickBooks. So we're tracing down why is that happening and what can we do about it, and trying to get everything so that it matches perfectly. The bank also, another thing that happened in this Intuit upgrade was that the links to our bank system were broken and then reinstated, and that's caused some problems. So at this point, we're just trying to unravel all of the issues that occurred from the Intuit thing, from bad choices being made in terms of how things were, and some things were entered, etc. So we're working hard on that, and we're working towards being ready to do a really good budget when we get to next, after the election this year, so that when we move forward for next year's budget, we can do it a lot smarter. I've also included in the financial report a breakout of exactly where we stand. So you can see that in our operations, we have $218,377 in operating funds at this point in time. We have $254,353.75 in our reserve fund, and that includes both the major reserve fund that we can write checks off it, although we typically move it into the operating account when we actually spend that money. But we have money from there that can fund capital expenses that we need to complete. And then we have a reserve fund that makes sure that we don't ever have more than $250,000 in any one bank, so that it's appropriately covered by FDIC insurance. And then we have a certificate of deposit that is our non-liquid savings account of $202,000. And that money is not earmarked for any purpose. It's just there to accrue interest because we don't need it at this time. But as we start moving forward and defining, reviewing our reserve fund and getting it updated, and then establishing a meaningful reserve fund plan so that we know what we need to spend on the water system, what we need to spend on roads, what we need to spend on X, Y, and Z. We will have an intelligent capital plan that we can fund moving forward. So at this point in time, as of this morning, we have $675,000 approximately in the bank, money, disposable money that we can, that's there, that belongs to TRCRA. That's it for this director's report.
Thank you, Nancy. Up next, Tim with the property manager's report.
All right.
Just like to update you on some things that are going on. One that's a new thing. Apparently, Gordon County qualified for a federal grant for rural high-speed internet installation. And so we have now been contacted over the last couple of weeks by Comcast, who's going to be their designated contractor to gain access to at least our Gordon County portion initially, and to install their cable so that then high-speed internet would be available to anybody who wants to purchase it from them. And so this week we will be looking over the agreement that they sent us. That's basically grants them access and then what the requirements are. And hopefully by the end of the week we'll have any issues ironed out and be able to sign that and get the trucks rolling for Comcast. Last year, most of you are aware, last year we purchased quite a few lots through the tax sale system. In Gordon County, we coordinated with the tax commissioner to auction off 83 lots that were severely delinquent to us and to the tax man. And 52 of those were purchased by other people other than the HOA. And so the remaining 31 in Gordon County we purchased, a couple of which we intended for a new common area. And I'll explain in just a minute. But most of them just to acquire so that we can sell them to recoup the money that was owed on those lots. And also over the course, and then we also had 11 in Gilmer County that were auctioned off a year ago this month. And we acquired 5 of those. And in all cases, the ones that were purchased by other people, we had added on an amount in the bidding process that represents monies that we as a lien holder can claim as what's called excess funds. And so in the course of that, the gross amount was over $200,000 that we're bringing in. We have not gotten very much of it yet from the counties. Well, Gilmer County has done what they're supposed to. Gordon's dragging its feet a bit, and that's where the biggest portion is coming. Anyway, so we're working on that, and our lawyer is as well. Also related to that, we passed the 1-year mark for both of those tax sales in June and July of this year. And so that's a special thing where the previous owner gets the right to redeem those properties, but that has passed now. So we have hired a lawyer that is specialist in real estate law that will be going through the proper paperwork so that we will then have clear title so we can dispose of the lots, in almost all cases selling them in order to say end up getting the money that was owed on those lots. A couple of the lots, as I mentioned, are planned to be turned into common areas, one of which is has a huge rock formation on it. It's on Marquee at lot 770. Gorgeous, got a small stream running through it. There's not really a buildable spot on it, but a neat rock formation that's about 100 feet long and 50 feet tall, and just make a nice walking area, possibly picnic area that we intend. And then lot 919 on Aurora, it's over 6 acres, and it is mostly extremely steep. Also at the bottom it has a stream that runs through that as well. And so a mountain hiking trail is what we're anticipating for that. Both of those are still subject to going through the quiet title action that the lawyer's working on. So it's not necessarily a done deal just yet, but pretty sure that those will become ours to do with as we see fit. And I think, well, you all need to know that we already have about 30 lots on 28 on hand that we acquired otherwise, where people gave us their land instead of paying the several $1,000s we owed. And those are on the market already. And so if you know of anybody looking to buy in here, we've got most of them listed with a couple of the realtors that are very active in here. And so we would love to turn those into cash that goes into these funds that Nancy was talking about, so we can start paving roads and doing the other things we need to do.
Thank you, Tim. We've got several announcements. Start with Nancy, Sal, and Jackie has a couple.
So, okay. So, election proxies will be going out probably next Saturday. We wanted to get a legal review of some of the wording in our CCRs concerning our requirement about who's eligible to vote, and also about whether we can actually send them via email, which will save us quite a bit of money. We believe that we have to send them by U.S. postage, U.S. mail. If we do, we will be stuffing envelopes next Saturday, and we invite you all to join us for this fun and exciting event. So they should be going out next Saturday. And you will be getting them via mail or email, depending on what the lawyers tell us.
Okay, our next board meeting is the annual meeting. And at the annual meeting is when we will vote for those candidates that are up for election. In addition, I think that meeting is catered too. Isn't that right? We're working on that. Have we finalized that? So there'll be a little lunch, there at that meeting. So we want, to encourage everybody to attend and vote for somebody.
Okay. All right. Diane sent me a text. And of course, the text is on my phone up there. It's about Neighborhood Watch, so I can't read it since it's up there. Is everyone here part of Neighborhood Watch? If you're not, and you would like that information, I can give you Diane's phone number after the meeting. I'm not gonna do it on YouTube. I'm not gonna share that information on YouTube. But she's got some reminders about new homeowners in their packets. Make sure you receive the information about the Neighborhood Watch program. And so if you need to see me after the meeting, I'll be glad to give you her number. Cindy Prince started an album on Talk of the Mountain where we can put our pets' pictures on there and just information about them. So when you see some animal running by your yard and you go, oh, yeah, you look at the thing, oh, that's so-and-so, I'll give them a message or give them a call to let them know that their dog is loose. And that's what happened this morning on my way to down here. I was driving up a dare and Cindy's little dog was on a dare. She didn't have her collar on. The other three did, but there was Roxy, sweet Roxy, and she was so happy to see me. She saw my car, she knows my car, so I got her back home. So that's the purpose of that album. If you are on Talk of the Mountain on Facebook, that's available for you. If you see dogs, you can notify their owners.
It is. No, it's not on the website, it's on Facebook.
It's on the Facebook group, Talk of the Mountain.
Jackie, I'd like to just add one thing. There is a way in the members section on our website to sign up to be part of Neighborhood Watch. So you don't necessarily have to call Diane.
That's true,
There's
yes.
a portal there to do that.
Yeah.
It's on top of it.
Okay, any further announcements from the board?
Gary, I need to add my name to that list. I don't know if when you adjourn, is it cut that list off? I just need to.
No, you want to sign up?
Please.
Yeah.
Thank you, I'm sorry.
Right ahead, that's right there. Reminder, we're going to take questions now, so if anybody else needs to sign up, come sign now.
Oh, okay.
You got an announcement?
Yeah, I do.
Sal, got something else?
When I was talking about the annual meeting, I don't think I actually mentioned the date.
No.
So the date is September 14th, okay? So that's what I was talking about, the big meeting where we vote and everything. September 14th, here, same time, 10 o'clock.
Anybody else on the board have anything? Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
No, I make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Second.
Let's,
All in
All in favor?
Any discussion? Any discussion?
All right.
None.
This meeting is adjourned.
Vote.
But we have open discussion.
Click on the picture.
I think so. Ask Jackie.
The meeting is adjourned, now it's the open forum.
Cat Fagan, you have a question?
Hey, I have a problem with all the speeders. I live on Styrock Road, Chris and Cheryl's old house.
I'm sorry, where?
Yeah, Styrock Road, whatever you call it. And I just get a lot of people, like work trucks, I mean, they're hitting that thing 50, 60 miles an hour.
Yep.
I mean, going down there. I mean, I think a speed bump would be appropriate. They're flying. They go down the hill and it's like they think they're in a rocket or something. And they just, I mean, they hit it. I mean, like that. Matter of fact, about 2.5 weeks ago, I come home from work at like 7 o'clock at night and there's a dead deer in my yard. I had to drag it in the woods and, you know, and it's all different cores. It's either the Airbnb people or the construction workers. All the other cores I recognize, everybody kind of goes through there at about 15, you know, but they're just, I mean, they just keep hitting this hill, like, and it's dangerous. I was cutting my grass one day and 2 of them almost got in a head-on collision. I didn't recognize them all, and I was just like, I'd have left both y'all here. I wouldn't have called 911 for you. I mean, they're ridiculous.
Is this near the top of Strat?
It's at the bottom. Yeah, at the bottom.
Backside of the lake.
Yeah, backside of the lake.
I'll tell you what we
It's
can
next
do.
to Lee Watkins, next to him. He's been there forever.
What we need are tag numbers, you can get tag numbers and
They
we
go too
can
fast.
act on it. The other thing we can do is we can get our security patrol to focus on that area. You can narrow down the worst time of
Yeah,
day.
it's like Thursday, Friday, usually, you know, Saturday, Sunday. No, it's not every day. I mean, some
When
days.
you're there.
But the construction workers are going wild too. I mean, they're flying down.
When you say construction workers, all they.
They're in white, yeah, white vans with ladders on them,
In
you
the middle
know.
of the road.
I'm sorry, are they lettered vehicles, so we?
No,
know they are?
no, they're not really, no. I mean, like, Arrow's the only one that's lettered that I see, and they're really good. I mean, you know, yeah, they,
Pickup trucks. you know.
yeah, cement trucks, pickup trucks, you know,
Flatbeds.
flatbeds. I mean, you know, the guy with, 4 dents in every corner, yeah.
If anybody, if you can get us descriptions, and if you can let Tim know right away too, when you see something like this, just during the business day,
Yeah,
we can figure they're probably headed for Applegate, and I can check the cameras at Applegate, but I need a description of the car. I need to know if it's a red pickup truck, if it.
yeah, I mean, it's, see, that's the thing, it's just, it's inconsistent. It's, you have people in $100,000 Mercedes drive by doing 100 miles an hour, and then you got some Hispanic guy in a white van flying by. Yeah, so it's, you see what I'm saying? So that's why, I mean, it's almost a safety thing, where, I mean, like a speed, I don't see a problem with the speed bump. I mean, you know, hey, slow down.
I don't think most of the population would go along with speed breakers, but we'll do whatever else we can.
No, if we could look into it, because it's a real safety concern, you
Especially
know,
in some of the
because
areas.
they're, I mean, they're really, I mean,
But get us any information.
next time I'm just gonna start taking film and I'll show you.
Yes.
We can
what- I
associate
mean,
it.
they fly.
We can associate it with a particular property, we can deal with the property owner, and, you know, there is a problem with, we are private property, and the local police are not going to.
Yeah, I understand that,
Here,
so
but-
that's why I was
but
like,
we
a
do have
speed bump would be
leverage through
good.
the
I mean,
property that
I
they're
would pay for it
associated with.
myself. A
I
speed
think
bump
we
would be
need
good.
more speed limit signs. But I know, but if they say, well, I didn't know, and it's because they didn't see one, because there's not one on, when you come through the Big Ridge gate, until you get down on, if you're going straight, you turn left on Long Branch. So there's nothing to tell anybody coming in Big Ridge to slow it down. That's what I was told yesterday anyway. The other thing is, I know what you're talking about. I was run off the road practically. It was coming, this particular vehicle had come from the Applegate. I knew they were going straight up Sterrett. And, I was run off the road and I landed on my horn. It was a white truck and then it had a trailer on the back, had gravel and all kinds of construction stuff. So I'm gonna go hunt that truck down, Monday to see where it's working. And I didn't have time to do it when I got back, so, I just wanna see, do what? I'm not gonna talk to them, I just wanna see
Well, it's a good thing
where,
you didn't get hurt, so.
yeah, I just wanna see what property it's working on, cause I think it's a new build, one of the new buildings.
I wonder if we could get one of the things like Fairmount has, it kind of flashes at you and tells you you're going 3 miles an hour over the speed limit.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a commercial vehicle, excuse me, if it's a commercial vehicle, we can find out you know, what company is it with? And I can tell you, company owners and operators do not appreciate their employees
Yeah.
driving like that.
Threaten to ban them then, you can't come in the community and work.
That's probably the best leverage, you know, I'm thinking of ways we can leverage it and make it stop.
And if we find out who it is and if they're repeat offenders, we can ban them from working in the community too.
Right.
We have that.
Another point,
We just need as much information as we can get from you guys.
Yeah, I just, like I said, the speed bump thing, I don't think would be a bad idea. I think it's, because there's gonna be a horrible accident down in that bottom, because it's like a big, it's like a half circle, it goes like that. And they hit that hill, and I don't know if they're trying to get up the other hill,
Yeah,
but I
but
mean,
if you have a
they're,
fire truck
they're,
or.
they're
We'll ask
flying.
the security patrols to sit down there a little bit.
It's just not that road,
Yeah.
though, it's all the roads, there especially.
Yeah.
They come flying down.
Well, mine's a roller coaster, so they really
It
like
really
mine,
is.
yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
another point I want to make here is we already had a discussion about the impact fees. Well, heavy trucks accelerating and decelerating on these roads tear up the roads even quicker. That makes their impact even more, which ends up costing us money. So we'd really rather not have that happen.
Brad, do you have anything else?
Oh, no, I'm good, thank you.
Christian Diane Savage.
Hello, my name is Christian. I put in an ORC to take care of the roads. I was on Storat, Hunter, and Foxhound. You did a fantastic job. You did it in a few days, but for some reason, Foxhound was left. They did one patch. I took several photos, if you like to see them. It's pretty bad. So I was wondering if somebody could take another look at Foxhound, but Storat came out great, Hunter came out great, just Foxhound seemed to be left behind except one patch. That was one. Also, number two, on Storat, 250 Storat. There's a vehicle right on the road, basically, just right on the easement of the road, and it looks like it was total. It's been left there for several months. And you see it, the whole front end is, I don't know if they're making a statement, because that might have been the vehicle that got into an accident on Apple.
It was,
Is that the
Yeah.
red Jeep?
Yeah,
Yeah.
and maybe they're making a statement to slow down, but it's been several months, it's an eyesore, and it's total. So that's at 250 Storat.
I can speak to that, they've got about 2 more weeks to do something with it, it'll be fine.
They received that letter.
Fantastic.
They've been put on notice.
Okay, that would be it, but thank you very much.
As for your
You're
potholes,
fantastic.
send those pictures to pm@trcra.com.
Could you write that down for me?
Sure, be glad to.
I could text it to your phone if that's easy.
It's website, I mean, it's.
I have to do it through the website, I can't.
Stands for property.
He don't wanna give out his phone number.
Oh, okay, I understand that. So do another ORC again with the photos attached, or do it?
You talking about a maintenance request?
Yeah, do I do that, or do I send it just straight to this
You can
email?
send a maintenance request, but also it wouldn't hurt to shoot him an email and show him the specific hose.
Great.
Or at least.
It's good to document it, though.
Lot number, where they are, that's what.
Okay.
But, yeah, but our guys they were working through and finding everything they saw.
Mhm.
And I know we've had some equipment breakdown and various things may have interrupted that process, but we'll get back.
Fantastic.
Anything else, Christian? I
That
got
would
that
be
for
it.
you right here. Amy, did you have something?
Appreciate that.
So thank you for the wonderful update on the reserve account and where we stand, and also the water strategic plan you're working on. My question regarding both the reserve and the water plan, I've heard that you're working currently on the water strategic study. Are you considering future growth? I didn't hear that.
Yeah, that's in the infrastructure portion of it.
That's
We're
the
not
infrastructure.
actually up to that point yet, but it's.
So that's an interesting, how do you know how many more people are going to build in here?
You
That's
can project growth based
right
on
out
what's
there.
occurred. and-
But, okay, and then we mentioned a reserve study. So will your strategic water plan be coupled with the reserve study for the road? I mean, the bigger picture of things of roads.
We have a reserve study from 20, I want to say
2017.
20, yeah.
27.
And we are, like, I think we've been discussing it a little bit, so we've started the conversation around it. I think we need to get an update, because we need to look at what all of the things that were listed there have been completed, and then get an update, because it's very, very clear that prices for anything, especially like I just saw one on road repairs, and it's gone up 21% since 2021. So there's some significant increases in cost of things that have to be factored in. So we do not have a concrete plan at this point, but that is some part of the discussion as we discuss the water system and also updating the reserve.
So your strategic water plan for better water service and assistance for the whole community is part of the ultimate reserve?
Actually, the reserve doesn't cover the water system, interestingly enough. So, I mean, I've read through the current one, so I think that they separate, we had a water study and a reserve plan. So I think they separated them out in their minds at that time, possibly because the water is only to residents that are actually using the water versus the whole community, whereas the reserve study is for across the whole community. So it's two separate things, and it would be nice to dovetail them together, because we have to plan the capital plan and put in place the numbers that we have to gain to cover what needs to get done.
Thank you.
And if I may add one thing in response to that, and I neglected to talk about it in the summary. We are planning, as we get further along with that strategic plan, we're gonna have a special meeting to discuss nothing but water system, and all those various parts with the community. That's part of the plan.
Get input from everybody
We've gotten a lot of input already, but that'll be a comprehensive discussion of the whole system, fees and everything else.
See, the problem, Amy, we have with the 2017 study is that all their projections were based on a 3% increase per year in the CPI. So the study is essentially useless in many respects.
It's a little dated.
We're gonna have to go back to the drawing board with it.
Thank you.
Rick Dunn.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank every one of y'all for your hard work and dedication. Thank you for volunteering. Tim, thank you. I know you get paid, but we appreciate y'all, genuinely do. A couple of things that Gary was asking or talking about, meter reading situation. You're cleaning the meters off, putting the flags. Could you explain that and how that concept is going to go into place? Is it going to cost more money if someone's using a certain amount of water, or are you actually going to read the meters and determine? I know you're trying to figure out the consumption.
We're early in the process right now. The thing that we do know is that we're paying more for water than we get in fees.
Yes.
So somewhere along the way, yes, it's gonna cost us a little more money. But right now, we don't know. And the biggest thing we don't know is how much we're using. That's the thing about the meters. We know how much water we pay for every month, but we don't know where our leaks are. Reading the meters is gonna let us know what we've got out there in terms of meters, how many paying customers we've got. And it's gonna help us isolate leaks in the system and private leaks. As we read the meters, we can tell homeowners whether they have leaks.
Okay.
But it's just too early yet to answer your question, I'm afraid.
Okay.
I think ultimately, we're all gonna have to pay a little more, but we really don't know right now what that is gonna entail.
Okay.
Rick, at this point, reading the meters is not just from the standpoint of trying to charge people more. It's really for us to evaluate what's going on.
Okay.
It's really an important information tool at this point that'll help us make those decisions as we go forward. So we don't make them in a blind vacuum.
Yeah, it's probably very important to know exactly where the water's going.
Yeah.
Something else too about, you were talking about collecting dues. Are there people that are delinquent that have water meters that have structures? Like has a cabin or a house and they have a water meter, but they're not paying their dues?
Well, the reverse is true. If they're not paying for their water, we cut it off.
That's what I'm saying. If there's a way to maybe solve the delinquent funds, if you cut the meter off and they don't have water,
We do not have that.
There's
we do
a
not
law
have
that
right.
pertains to that too, we have to be cognizant of.
I was just curious.
But we do start the collections procedure, and that's something that we're keeping up with.
It is rare that somebody that's actually a homeowner is also very severely behind. There's a handful of those. It's more often that If they are getting behind in the HOA, they're probably also getting behind in their water, and once they get a certain amount of, time, of not having kept their water bill up, then we give them a warning, and then we turn the water off, lock it. And there's a fee for turning it back on. And it usually happens real quick, in a few days. So it works to do that, but that's self-enforcing, the water system is. Because you lose your water if you don't pay for it. The HOA dues is a little longer-term situation, and it's mostly on the empty lots. And it's, most of what we deal with is stuff that's left over from quite a while ago when the market was dead for 10 years. And some of the land investment companies that own multiples of lots gave up on them and just threw up their hands and went away, kind of. And so that's why we use tax sales last year to process about 100 of those lots, getting them into better hands, that all of those lots that other people bought paid their dues for this year. And that kind of thing. So, plus we are in the process of collecting those excess funds that represent a lot of the money that was owed to us from previous years.
Thank you. Speaking of acquiring lots and selling, get them sold, and then the association or the community owns lots. Are there any of those lots that we currently own that would be a good lot for an extra water tank? Because we're talking about plans, future plans for our water system. And I'm just assuming that the tanks that we have are max maybe. It's like we get an email every week or two or month. The pump's messed up, we can't use water, we conserve water. And so if I'm up here, I conserve water. If one of my family members here, I send them a message. Don't take a shower, just make coffee, So, is there a lot somewhere? I know there's some lots you could put a house if you wanted to. We probably got some of those. But has that been a thought process with the planning for future water? I don't know where it would be good to put one, maybe on the back side, out the road side. Is that a thought?
That wouldn't be necessary, and it would be incredibly expensive to put in a new tank in a new place. The ones we have in place just need to increase capacity, so if we get new tanks, and then as part of the discussion, as Dan said, for increasing capacity, we can put it right beside the current tank.
Okay.
A much bigger one.
I got you.
And then they can work in tandem. There's no reason to get rid of the older ones until they aren't serviceable anymore. But what they are is they're on the 3 highest points in Talking Rock Creek.
Okay.
Or at least related to the areas they feed. Okay. So it's gravity fed. We're not pressurizing the system other than by gravity. And so it makes it so that you have to have them on very high points. And so that's why those places were chosen. And the one in the south there where Starrett turns into Hunter, that's the very highest point in the whole place here, by quite a bit.
Okay.
Because it's about 200 and, a little over 200 feet higher than tank 1, which is the one up here closest to us now in the north. The one in the middle is the lowest one, and it was curious to me as to why they didn't pump the water up to the highest one to start it from there, because the middle one feeds the other 2. But the reason why is because of what it would take and the pressure on the pipes to try to do that. Where if you stair-step it up, then it keeps the system with fewer problems. And so I found that out recently. But anyway, we're looking at all the various options, including the possibility of diverting from one tank to another, because the one that's got the most capacity on it right now gets overwhelmed sometimes. And so we're looking at various ways we can do that. But that'll come out in the discussion by the board and what all those details will be.
Thank you.
Can I respond? I'd like to respond to an earlier part of your question. Just saying, one thing to understand about water, and we were talking about metering and we've talked about conservation. One of the things I've learned, and it's coming into these discussions, is some users use a lot more water than others. I mean, our consumption is very high, and what causes that, in a lot of places, is when you're not metering water. If we've got someone, for example, on the mountain, who has a toilet that runs all the time, hundreds of gallons of water are wasted every month by someone who does that. Literally, hundreds of gallons of water. But since if we just charge everybody the same thing, we don't meter it, we don't know who those people are. And so what other places have done is they'll have, and other places in our general area, resorts like ours, is they'll have a plan where everyone pays a given amount, an amount that has to be determined. But if you start using way above the average, it's a tiered thing for every, every increment of, say, maybe, I don't know what the number, maybe 1,000 gallons more than the average, you start paying an elevated fee for your excessive water use. That makes people start fixing toilets and places that are leaking. So, those are the kinds of things that we're looking about at this plan. I think you're on the right track, and the property manager's on the right track, and I think we're all gonna benefit from getting this done right.
When Gary mentioned reading the meters, I was excited.
Yeah.
Because to have a cabin here, I don't come up here all the time. I'm gonna be one of the ones that they're gonna say, does he even flush his toilet? It's just, I mean, my toilet's not gonna run.
That's right.
But so I was kind of, and I'm thinking, well, they're not gonna drop the basic fee. The basic fee will stay the same. They'll just add to excessive users. This is like my water bill at home. And I use 2,000 gallons, stay under 2,000 gallons, it's the basic fee. I go over 2,000 gallons, they charge me another $7.
Right.
But that was just a question I had about the water meters. One more. You were mentioning the funds. We have a group, non-accessible, 200,000 something in a money market or a CD or something. What's the interest rate?
Oh, man, I should know, but I don't know it off the top of my head.
That would be the
What?
very first thing I would know.
About 4.5.
I should.
That's pretty good. Okay, I was just curious about that.
The 7-month CD was the
Right
best rate
now,
we can get.
everything is kind of up in the 5 inches. kind of.
Yeah, when we renew it this fall.
I'm just glad that you didn't say 1.25 or something like that.
No. The money market.
200,000 something can make a little money with.
We have.
The system we set up also for protecting, the FDIC limit that's there, we instituted, and there's a service that banks do where you can keep your money in one bank, even though you're going over the 250, and at times we have $1 million in the bank, and usually in January we get up close to that. But what they do is they've got a program where overnight, all but a set amount of money that is yours is technically swept to other banks that are FDIC. So you never have more than $250,000 in any given bank on paper, which protects you. There's a cost for doing that with some fees, but they also are paying us interest on when that money goes out like that. So, and it's an amount that's more than compensating for the fees we get charged. So you're actually gaining interest that way as well.
That's good.
Rick, I would add too, yes, we have an antiquated water system, and we've had some problems this year. But too, if you go back and look, several weeks of our problems stem from one damage to the water line. The system is, even now, just now gotten stabilized again. So that was something that was unforeseen, but we'll try to do better as we go forward.
Well, y'all can't help a broken water line. They're gonna break.
That's true.
Pumps are gonna malfunction. Electrical parts of the water system are gonna malfunction. I'm sure they're pretty old. Some of this stuff is pretty old. And I know it's gonna be a heck of a job planning for the future of the water in our community. It's gonna cost some money. I couldn't even begin to fathom the process of planning. But there, you know, just like an old car, you have a car, it's your car, it's your dependent, you gotta have it to get to work. Somewhere along the line, that car is gonna get to a certain age, it's gonna break, parts, you're gonna break on the side of the road. You get to a point where I need to go get a new car. And I'm wondering, I've owned property here since 2001.
Rick, I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to stop you. We got a
I'm
3-minute
sorry.
limit on
I'm
this.
sorry.
We're all ready to go home and do something else.
I apologize.
So, this meeting's over, thank you.
Oh, everybody got, everybody got
Is there anybody else?
I'm sorry.
Oh, did we read
I'm not on the list, Gary, but two things have come up in regard to what you were just talking about. In our condo association in Florida, it's in our rules and regulations that if you are going to be gone from your unit for more than 5 days or whatever, we each have a water valve in the complex. You're required to turn off your water. You're required to turn it off to your hot water heater, and you're required to flip your electrical breaker off to your hot water heater. It's a requirement, okay? The other thing is, and I don't know how you would enforce that here, but I know it's saved several times. We've had a water leak, and because it was turned off, it didn't flood the unit next to us. And the other thing is, having been in the sign business, I used to do a lot of work for Georgia Power, and they had contractors, subcontractors going into all kinds of situations, places like this, places in other businesses, whatever. Every vehicle that was a contractor or a subcontractor for Georgia Power had to have a 20-inch by 4-inch magnetic sticker on each side saying, I am a Georgia Power contractor, okay? Now, we've been up here a long time, and we ride these roads constantly when we're up here, just seeing things, looking, whatever. And we have experienced what somebody already talked about the subcontractors flying down the roads, especially on the back roads, like over on Hannah. And we were like, we just saw him over on Aurora, and now he's over on Hannah, okay? Is there any stipulation about the contractors who are working in here, the builders, and I'll use Beers because I know Beers really well, that they have to be approved for first thing to work in here? And then two, could it be set up so that all of their subcontractors and their employees have to have a indicator of some sign on their vehicle to say, I am a Beers employee. I forget the other house we just looked at yesterday where they're building. But if you had a decal, then when you're going by you at 50 miles an hour, you can go, okay, that was a Beers truck. You know, and this would be responsibility of the contractors, and maybe they could be fined if they don't do this, or said you cannot work in here if you don't identify your vehicles. And I know because, and I'm gonna use Beers, and I have nothing against them because they're probably gonna end up building our house, is that there is equipment sitting all over the place, especially on the back side, just on the side of the road, trailers, bush hogs, all kinds of stuff, and I think all of that equipment should be labeled. Then, if you see anything suspicious, you know that, hey, that belongs to somebody. What are you doing loading it up? You know, because there is stuff sitting everywhere.
By law, we cannot approve, or disapprove a contractor. If a contractor wants to work in here, unless he violates one of our existing covenants and bylaws, we can't by law restrict them from coming in. I would like to see us in a situation where we could have them sign in. But again, we're back to we've got an office staff that's too small for what we're trying to accomplish now. I'm hoping that's one thing we can address in the future. I know we want to go to a transponder system, and so that members can come and go with the transponder, and that doesn't require quite as much interaction with the office staff. But we would definitely like to know more about who's working in here, and hopefully we can do that.
Hey, I just want to know how they're all gaining access. I mean, they're just, I mean, does someone give one a code or something?
So that's why,
Yeah,
if we know, if you have an incident with somebody, and I can identify that truck, I can go to the gate, I can see when that truck came in and out of the gate, and Tim can look and see what code they used.
Yeah.
We'll flip it off, homeowner or not, we'll flip it off if they're coming in without authorization or if they're creating a problem.
Or they're piggybacking off of someone when we get to the gate and
So
open
that's
it.
just why it's an information game. We got a good description of the vehicle, we can see what code they're using. And we can have and do turn codes off, we realize people coming in. We've got some people in here that have been coming in, their neighbors will give them codes, their friends will give them codes. They haven't lived here years, they still come and go at will. But we're working on it.
Another instance, Gary, that I saw in the last week was some of these subcontractors that are working are bringing their little kids, and there's little kids running all over these construction sites, and you know they are not residents. Is there some kind of rule that could prohibit them from bringing small, and I'm talking 4, 5, 6-year-old kids running around?
OSHA might have rules, but we don't. There's nothing that we can do about it.
It's a family affair.
If you see they're endangering a child, just call the sheriff.
Yeah, if they are. Otherwise, you know, people are just gonna do things, and we have to let them make those mistakes and be stupid. It's just a culling.
Has anybody thought about having a well system up here for the water issues instead of having the water brought all the way from Calhoun area?
Individual property.
For the tanks, I mean, so that.
Oh, that would never fill. That would never fill.
Yeah.
It would never work out?
Feet above.
No.
Yeah, the water needs that well, so.
Let's go.
Thank y'all.
I'm Regina.
How you doing?
I'm
Holding up
good.
pretty good as you can.
Yeah, I gotta figure out how to stop this now.
Yeah, we did it.
How do I make it?